Hey everybody, this is Joe Pace with Icewater Yoga, and today I'm going to give you 5 steps on your way to figuring out how to do headstand. Right away, let's start with the first step, which is just getting a feel for what's going on in your upper body so that you can support the pose without bringing pressure into your neck. That's the whole goal of headstand. We want to do it without any pressure and without any strain or stress in the body, especially the neck. So if you have any sort of neck condition, headstand's probably not the pose for you. If you feel like you're sturdy and strong enough to take on weight in your upper body so that you don't have to take it on in your head, let's do it. So the first step is to just set up our alignment. The alignment for headstand is bringing as much pressure into the forearms as possible and using a geometrical structure of the triangle to make the pose as easy as possible for us. So I'll do it facing you to start. Basically, what we're setting up is a triangle shape between our hands and our elbows. And this is ideally an equilateral triangle, meaning the distance between my wrist and my elbow on either side is the same as the distance between my elbows. So I'm placing my hands down, my elbows are shoulders width roughly, and my hands come together in front of me. I interlace the fingers, and as opposed to keeping one finger my pinky finger below the other pinky finger, I tuck that pinky underneath so I can press both pinkies down into the floor evenly without crushing that bottom pinky. And so now I have the structure. The webbing of my hands is not super tight. I'm lightly interlacing the fingers, but all of the webbing of my fingers are connected and touching. So it's not forceful and it's not any pressure. If you have any rings, by the way, you might want to take those off. So you're putting your elbows underneath your shoulders and you're placing the tip top of your head against the mat. And what you're going to do with the hands is cup the back of your head. So if you imagine the floor is right here, I'm cupping the back of my head with my hands lightly and the top of my head is pressing against the floor lightly. So what that would look like, I interlace the fingers, my elbows are shoulders width. I take the top of my head to the mat, and now I'm just feeling what it's like to bear some weight in my forearms mostly, and I'm pressing down into my forearms so hard that I barely feel weight in my head, but I am feeling some weight in the head. Very little though. Okay, so this is the structure you want to maintain. You don't want to allow the elbows to bow out. You always want to keep them hugging in. You always want to keep pressing down through the forearms so that if I tried to lift your forearm, it wouldn't come up. You are super strong in the arms in this pose. So that's step 1. Just feel what it's like on your knees. Step 2 is doing everything the same in the upper body except we lift the knees off the mat. So set up your foundation, elbows or shoulders width, and once you felt comfortable with your head on the floor, with your knees on the floor, you place the head down and you lift the knees. You tuck the chin towards the chest so that the top of your head is against the mat, and you walk your feet in as much as you'd like. So this is starting to be an inversion. You're pressing through your elbows, you're pressing through the edges of your hands, you're lightly interlacing your fingers, and you're cupping the back of your head. That's step 2. Get comfortable there. Once you're comfortable there, you're really starting to get a feel for what it's like to be upside down while bearing weight on your arms, which is the key to the pose. So step 2 is really important. So once you start to get really comfortable with step 2, step 3 is actually going to get us upside down with our legs over our head. So make sure you're comfortable with step 2, make your way to a wall. We'll do the same exact thing, except we're going to walk the feet in, and this time kick up, keep our knees bent, and try to find the wall with the soles of our feet. You'll see what I mean in a second. So I'll put my elbows, shoulders width. My hands are about 3-ish inches from the wall, not very far at all. I place the top of my head down. I walk in. I'm pressing so hard into my forearms. I kick up. So now I'm trying to find the wall with my feet. I do. Now I'm pressing into both forearms, and you'll notice my voice isn't very strained because I'm not cranking into my neck or throat at all. And then come down lightly, 1 foot at a time, and stay low. So maybe take a child's pose here for a minute or so you don't rush back into your normal standing shape. This tends to shift the blood around a little bit, so just be careful. Now that we have our foundation set up, the next step is to extend the legs. We're going to do that at the wall. So now you've gotten a feel at the wall, you're holding your headstand with knees bent, ideally for about 30 seconds, maybe a minute. Now you're starting to work towards step 4, which is doing the same thing but straightening the legs. So you make your way to the wall, set up your foundation, your equilateral triangle, top of the head to the mat, supported by the hands, press into your triceps or into your forearms, and maybe find the wall with your feet. Once you find the wall with your feet, extend one leg high, maybe bring it down, extend the other leg or both legs. And if you topple, you either hit the wall or you come back down lightly. Okay, so we're starting to piece this together. And the reason step 4 includes the wall is because you just don't want to ever feel like, before you're doing the headstand in the middle of the room, that you don't feel confident at the wall. The wall is there as a safety net, not a crutch, so you don't want to use the wall as you slide your feet up. You want to use the wall only if you need it, only if your feet happen to fall against it. Okay, so there's nowhere for you to go other than hitting the wall or coming back down safely to your mat. The final step is the full pose in the middle of the room. I'll talk through it just one more time so you have all of the bases covered as you think about it. Placing my elbows underneath my shoulders, I zip my hands together, I interlace my fingers, the webbing is touching lightly, I tuck one pinky under, I press the edges of my forearms and my hands firmly into the ground. Top of the head is against the mat, I cup the back of my head with my hands and I'm pressing down really hard into my elbows and forearms. I walk my feet in, I lift one heel, I lift the other. It's not a jump, it's a lift. From here, I press weight into both forearms evenly. I find the stability and then point the toes straight up to the ceiling. Lift through every one of your toes towards the ceiling. Continue pressing against the forearms. There's majority weight in the arms, very, very little weight in the head. And if you feel like you're crunching in the neck, come out immediately. If you feel like your elbows are falling apart from one another, come out immediately. But you should feel like you could hold this for a very long time. This isn't a very physically active pose, even though it is really energizing. To come out, knees come back down towards the chest, 1 foot at a time, lower, and stay low. So that's the progression to headstand in 5 steps. You have a foundation now to work from. You don't necessarily have to jump right into it in the middle of the room. Get familiar with the upper body position that's going to support everything above it. Get used to the feeling of being upside down and enjoy headstand for up to 5 minutes or so if you can do it without any forcing or any straining. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it and I look forward to working with you again in the future.